podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin, and I'll be taking you guys through the latest in the world of mixed martial arts. You can follow me on Twitter at MMAOB. This podcast is available at MMAOddsbreaker.com. Go to our YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about it. Also, check me out at bjpen.com and MMARings.net. A couple pieces of news to talk about today. I should mention in about 35 minutes, I'll be back with Cole Shelton breaking down UFC Singapore, so I'm looking forward to doing that. But yes, I have quite a bit of news to talk about first in this show. I do want to mention that I've sent this podcast over to this service called Anchor, and it should be available on iTunes very shortly. This podcast is available at Spotify now too, guys. So if you want to listen to the audio, if you're like at work or driving or whatever, definitely check it out. I appreciate all the subscribers or all the views or whatever. We're trying to grow the show, doing it 5 days a week and trying to grow it. So yes, it should be on Spotify now and iTunes hopefully the next day or two, which is great because we've had some issues at the back end with Oddsbreaker. That's why it hasn't been, unfortunately, on iTunes up until now. But it looks like I found a workaround with this, so hopefully very shortly. Anyways, let's talk about the news today. Okay, so I saw a tweet from my buddy Aaron Bronstein yesterday that CM Punk, Travis Browne, Mike Jackson, and Chris Holdsworth are actually all in the USADA testing pool, and they all could be eyeing a UFC return, which I think is kind of interesting. So let's talk about each guy here. CM Punk, he's fought twice in the UFC. In 2016, he lost to Mickey Gall in his debut. It was a terrible performance. He got finished really quickly, 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Came back 2 years later, last year actually, in June, in Chicago, where he's from, and he lost the decision to Mike Jackson. So he's leaving the door open for a UFC return. He's 40 years old now. I personally have no interest in watching CM Punk fight again. I'm not really a fan of him because I don't think he deserves to be in the UFC. I mean, I think anyone would actually agree with me on that one. I mean, the guy's got 2 fights and he lost both fights, and he had no fights before that. Like, he's a rich guy that had a dream of fighting in UFC, and he wanted to fight in MMA, and I respect that. It's a hard sport, and the guy, he trained hard for it. And he went to Rufus Sport and he trained with those guys. But if you really want to fight that bad, in my opinion, he should have came up on the regional scene. Like, why did he have to come to the UFC right away? I don't think he deserved that. So, again, I respect the fact that he trained hard for these fights, but he shouldn't be in the UFC. So it is interesting he's leaving the door open for return. I do think he's somewhat of a draw. I do think people do want to see him get his ass kicked, if anything. But, it's the UFC's got to have some sort of bar at some point saying, you're not good enough, and there's no way that CM Punk is a UFC fighter. Having said that, the fact he's still in the USADA pool does make me believe that there's a chance he could come back at some point. So no idea what's going to happen with CM Punk, but he is still in the USADA testing pool. And so is Mike Jackson, his former opponent. Mike Jackson's 1-1 in the UFC. He's a photographer down there in Texas. I like Mike Jackson. He's a nice guy. He at least has some amateur fights. But again, it's the same situation. 1-1 record. He lost to Mickey Gall, and then he beat CM Punk by decision last year. Pretty much the exact same situation, except he has a win. So the fact he's coming off a win, I can see, I guess, why he's still on the roster. But at the same time, he's not exactly a professional fighter because he has another job, and he's more of like a part-time fighter, which what a lot of guys in the regional scene are. There's a lot of guys in the UFC that are part-time fighters too, but 1-1 record, and he doesn't have a ton of amateur fights still. According to Sherdog, he has one. He has been around the sport for a while, so again, I have respect for Mike Jackson. He stepped in the octagon, what a lot of other photographers, journalists, whatever you want to call them, wouldn't do. But again, you got to have a bar at some point for the UFC, and these guys, they had their fights. I think a lot of fans and media disagreed with them. I personally don't want to see either guy back in the UFC, but at least Mike Jackson is coming off a win, so you can see why he at least still has a contract. The other 2 guys are interesting. Travis Browne, he hasn't fought since 2017 when he was submitted by Alexei Oleinik. He's actually on a 4-fight losing streak. He's 37 years old now, Travis Browne. But he does have a good record in the UFC, 9-7-1, so that's a good record. He has some good wins. Matt Mitrione, Stefan Struve, Overeem, Barnett, Gonzaga. Good wins. I mean, Travis Browne for a while was a really good fighter. But 4 straight losses to end his career, and obviously hasn't fought in 2 years. He is well connected, obviously, to Ronda Rousey. I do think there's a chance Browne could fight again. I don't know if he actually ever officially retired. I don't think he ever came out and said it. I know that fans and media and Dana White were like, these guys should retire. I don't know if he ever came out and actually said it, though. So the UFC is always looking for heavyweights. At least Travis Browne, he does have a lot of experience in the UFC and in MMA in general, and he does have some good wins. So you know what? I'm not personally a fan of Travis Browne just because of some of the stuff this guy's did outside the octagon. But, if he wants to fight again, I can at least see why, because he is a legitimate heavyweight. The UFC always needs heavyweight. So it's interesting. I mean, they're always looking for big guys in that biggest division, and Travis Browne could return. What about Greg Hardy versus Travis Browne? Now that I'm thinking about it, that'd be interesting. Two of the most hated fighters in the sport. That'd be an interesting fight. The other guy is Chris Holdsworth. Chris Holdsworth's a very interesting case. Chris Holdsworth, he hasn't fought in 5 years, and that's sad because he got a concussion and he has not been able to fight since he's only 31 still, though. It's crazy. He won the Ultimate Fighter season 18 in 2013 against Davey Grant, beat Chico K. Miss. That was the same night, the second fight in the UFC, which was his last fight. That was the same night that TJ Dillashaw beat Henry Brown the first time. So it's crazy. This guy hasn't fought since then. Long time. Long time. May 2014. Crazy. He's had concussions, like I said, in training, which is really unfortunate. And hasn't fought since. Very much like TJ Grant, just concussions. I don't even know what ever happened to TJ Grant. He just stopped fighting and he stopped, talking. And I think Holdsworth's kind of in the same way, except the difference is at least Holdsworth stayed in the game. He's still a coach of Team Alpha Male. So he's only 31, guys. It's crazy. If he's over these concussion symptoms, it's a no-brainer that he'd be back in the UFC. No-brainer. The guy's a really good fighter, 6-0. He retired undefeated. I guess he's not retired, but he left this war undefeated. I'd like to see him fight again as long as the concussions are healed up, but he had a bad concussion, and I'm not 100% sure that he will ever actually be cleared to fight again, but the fact he's still in the pool is very interesting. A couple of other pieces of news here. Jose Aldo is cutting down to bantamweight. There was a picture posted by Anahisa from Kwambachi yesterday. He looks freaking shredded. He looks good. So I thought I wasn't 100% sure when he said he was going to drop to 135. I kind of thought, okay, he's just going to say this. But now it looks like he's actually cutting the weight and testing it out, and he looks good. He looks shredded. Maybe this is the weight class he was supposed to be at the whole time. I don't know, but I was at his last fight against Volkanovski in Brazil. He didn't look good in that fight, but before that, he beat Canyon Stevens by knockout. So this guy is still a top, 5 guy at featherweight, and I think if he drops down to 135, he can make the weight. I think he could challenge anyone. He is a really interesting bantamweight, obviously. He would be a huge name in that division, and he could easily fight Henry Cejudo in his first fight at 135. So he looks good. Again, I was a little skeptical about this too, guys, but he's only 33 years old, so he's not super old right now. He might have the ability to cut weight a few times and make a small run here at 135. So we'll see what happens. But, one of the all-time greats for sure, Jose Aldo, regardless of what happens at 135, he's still an all-time great and a legend. Tyron Woodley put Kelvin Gastelum on blast yesterday at TMZ. Just really went after Kelvin Gastelum, called him Fatsalum. He said he's just like the king of Chipotle, king of Qdoba. It's pretty funny stuff. Gastelum, I guess I'd mentioned, I think during the Dominance MMA Media Day last week or 2 weeks ago, that he wants to fight Woodley in a rematch, and Woodley just put him on blast saying that, the first time they fought, UFC 183, Gastelum missed weight. He was also hospitalized the day before, and somehow he was still able to fight the next day, which is crazy to me. But Woodley beat him by split decision, and after the fight, Woodley was kind enough to give back Gastelum's portion of the purse that he received for Gastelum missing weight, and that's why I think Woodley's pissed. He just believes that Gastelum showed him no respect by calling him out again. He's just like, I have nothing wrong with you, man. Why are you calling me out? So I do think a rematch could happen at some point. I mean, it was a close fight, a split decision. Some people thought Gastelum won. I think I scored for Woodley. I haven't seen that fight in a while. It's been 4 years. But, I could see why he's upset. I mean, if I did a favor for someone, and Woodley just did a favor for him by giving him the money, and then they were, I guess, in his mind, talking smack a few years later. I'm not 100% sure exactly what Gastelum said that really irritated him so much, but I can see why, if he thought he was talking smack, why he'd be upset, because he did him a favor financially. But at the same time, it's been a while. It's been 4 years. Gastelum's in a different weight class. Unless Woodley's trying to set him up for a fight if he moves up in weight. I don't know if he's going to, but if he does move up to middleweight, that would set up a big fight with Gastelum. So we'll see what happens here, but definitely keep an eye on these two guys. Looks like there's a chance they could rematch on the road. Walt Harris was a guest interview at UFC Boston, and he was talking to the media, and they asked him, did you fight Francis Ngannou? He actually said that's a fight he wants. Francis is obviously looking for a fight, and Walt Harris said he would take that fight with Ngannou, and that'd be a pretty good fight, but Ngannou obviously is ranked in the top 3. Harris is I think he's top 10 now. He's at least top 15. He's looked really good lately, but he obviously has to get by Alistair Overeem. That's no easy feat. He could definitely knock out Overeem, but he might also get knocked out himself or get submitted. So you can't look past Overeem if you're Walt Harris, but at the same time, he was asked by the media, to be fair. It's not like he brought it up. The media asked him if he would fight Ngannou. He said, yeah. He's like, Ngannou's frustrated. I'd fight him. And he also said he'd fight Jon Jones. And again, it was the media asking him. And he just said basically Jon Jones is his friend, but he would obviously take that fight, be a no-brainer for him. It's a big name fight, and he would like to fight Jon Jones. So, I think Walt Harris beats over him. He's right there as far as the top heavyweights in the world. He would probably get a top 5 guy in his next fight, or a top 3 guy, I guess, because over is probably top 5. Possibly the winner of this next fight there, we're talking about in a second here. But Harris has looked good, and definitely it's the second win in the UFC, and he's looking a lot better. The other heavyweight fight I was going to talk about here, Junior Santos versus Alexander Volkov. This was supposed to be the main event of UFC Moscow. Now we're hearing, unfortunately, this fight looks like it's been canceled. Junior Santos allegedly is in the hospital. He's sick or something, so this fight's going to be canceled. That's according to Dennis Geico. He's a Russian MMA reporter. He's really good getting all those Russian guys, and obviously has connection with Volkov. So looks like JDS is on that fight, which sucks. That was going to be a really good fight. But if that happens, apparently Francis Ngannou could possibly be a replacement, which makes sense. He's been looking for a fight, dying for a fight. Ngannou versus Volkov is a really good fight. And again, the winner could fight the winner, Harris, and over him. If you ask me, there's a bigger chance that could happen. So, yes, it looks like JDS is out. That's not 100% official by the UFC, but that's everything we're hearing on social media, that he is injured in that fight. So we'll see what happens there. And the other thing I want to mention here is there's one fight that's been changed for Bellator this weekend. Paul Daley was supposed to fight Sabah Hamasi, former UFC fighter, and now he'll be fighting Saad Awad instead in a catchweight bout, 175 pounds. Paul Daley is still a solid fighter. I mean, I know he had that loss to MVP, and it wasn't bad performance by him. Actually, he beat Eric Silva in his last fight, so he got rid of that loss. But he's still a solid fighter. I don't think the same guy he once was, for sure, but still extremely experienced guy, 41, 17-2, very experienced guy. And had a full training camp for this fight, whereas Saad Awad's taking the fight on 5 days' notice. Saad Awad, he's a bit older now. He's 36 now. What's Paul Daley? Paul Daley's 36. They're all the same age. Yeah, Paul Daley's getting up there too. But Saad Awad, 36. The difference is he's on 3-fight losing streak. He just got submitted by Goiti and Malchi a few weeks ago. Definitely a good opportunity for him to take a fight on short notice, coming off 3 straight losses, but I don't like the matchup for him. Definitely, he has knockout power. We've seen him knock out Will Brooks in the past. So this fight probably stays standing, but Paul Daley's a little bit more well-rounded, I think, than people believe, and he could take the fight to the ground too. Where Saad Awad is, he's not as good on the ground. So, I was actually looking forward to that Hamasi fight. I think that would have been a really fun fight, but it looks like Awad's getting the fight instead. So yes, so Awad versus Paul Daley, that is official. I'm gonna double check, see if I missed any news here. Yeah, MMA Junkie has the report on Junior Santos now as well. So it looks like that's going to happen. He's going to be taken out of the fight, which sucks. But if he's hurt, he's hurt. I think that's it for today, guys. I'm going to not for today, I should say, for this show, because I'll be back in 25 minutes with Cole Sheldon breaking down UFC Singapore and talking about the fights on the weekend. So once again, thanks for tuning in. And I'll be back in 25 minutes. So guys, follow me on Twitter at MMAOB podcast, MMAOddsbreaker.com. Check me out at bjpen.com, MMARings on net. Stay tuned to the channel. 25 minutes. We'll be back with Cole Sheldon breaking down UFC Singapore. See you soon. Bye.